Peace everyone, Unmasked here, and today I will be showing you how to color this tree bark texture. On the upper left hand side of the screen you'll see the color palette and the numbers that correspond to the Luminance pencils that I'll be using. And as usual, I am working on Stonehenge vellum paper. And for those that support me on Patreon, the high resolution reference photo and digital color palette is available for you. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I'm doing is I'm taking my 832 pencil and I'm just doing a bunch of vertical lines. I'm just kind of covering up all the white, and now I'm taking my paint thinner and I'm just blending it out with the brush to make it smoother and more consistent. The next thing that I'm doing is I'm taking my black pencil, the 009, and I'm just drawing in some of the deeper cuts and texture into the bark. And I'm keeping all of my pencil strokes vertical and making the edges nice and jagged. If you do happen to see the reference photo that I'm using, I'm not really following it very well. I'm really just using it as a guide to create this texture. And I'm just going over the black again to darken it up a little bit. The next thing I'm doing is I'm using my 866 pencil to just color in some of the texture. Again, I'm not really trying to do anything other than get some of the color down, and I'm using my 548, 077, 836, and 571, and I'm just using a lot of vertical strokes to maintain the overall direction of the wood grain in the tree bark. And now I'm taking my paint thinner and just blending out those colors. I am trying to avoid the black texture that I laid down previously, and now I'm just going through and blending out some of the black just to make it a bit more consistent. Now what I'm doing is I'm using my 077 pencil and I'm just drawing in some more texture. Similar to how I did the black, I'm now doing it with the 077 pencil. And now I'm going through with my 548 pencil, and the pattern that I'm trying to create here is kind of like a jagged puzzle. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating these little jagged puzzle pieces and leaving the negative space as the highlight of the texture. And I switch to my 077 pencil and I do a little bit more of the jagged puzzle piece kind of pattern. And I'm really not even paying attention to my reference photo at this point because I'm just trying to illustrate the technique to create this kind of texture. I'm using my 548 pencil at this point, and I'm just kind of randomly putting in some of the texture marks, and I use some of the 571 to create some of the wood color in particular areas, and switching back to my 866 pencil. Now what I'm doing is I'm using my paint thinner once again to just help bring out the saturation of all these colors and just smooth out a little bit of the pencil grain. And you can really see that using this paint thinner starts to bring out the colors that I'm using. I always stress in my tutorials how important a good color palette is, and I stand by that same thing on this as well. Now what I'm doing is I'm using my black pencil again, and I'm using it at a really steep angle, almost parallel to the paper, and I'm kind of creating these thin, jagged texture lines up and down the tree, and I'm really just keeping it random and following kind of the pattern that I've already created. It's just meant to be cracks in the tree. The next thing that I do is I go back through my colors, my 077, 836, and I just kind of color around to add that color in some of the less saturated spots. And then again with my 571 I do the same, and then I darken up some of the values with a 548 pencil. Here I'm just taking some of my black and darkening up some of the values on the darker parts of the tree. Now I'm taking my 832 and just adding a little bit of highlighted spots and smoothing out some of the pencil grain, putting a little bit more pressure on the pencil. Now this brings me to one of my favorite techniques. What you see me doing here is taking my 866 pencil and I'm using an X-Acto knife to scrape off little crumbs of the tip of my pencil. And I'm using I do the same thing with my 548 color, my 077 color, and my black. And I'm just getting a good coat of all of those colors all across the tree bark. The next thing that I'm going to do to make sure that those pieces stay there is I take this spoon and I just gently rub it onto the paper. And I'm kind of using the shape of the spoon to kind of push in all those little crumbs into the paper. You don't have to add a lot of pressure to do this. You just have to add enough so that the pencil pigment sticks to the paper. And once you do that, I just take my brush and brush off all the excess, and you are left with a very texturized tree bark. The last thing that I do here is I'm just taking some of my black and touching up some of the black parts of the tree just to bring out a little bit of those last final details. And then the final thing that I am doing is I'm just taking my 548 and black pencil and adding an edge to the tree. And there you have it, there's the final product. I hope that you found this tutorial helpful, and if you did, let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover in the future. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.